Good morning. Welcome to MAD Book Talks 2019. My name is Jessica Walsh, and I'm an instructional specialist outside of Chicago, Illinois. And I'm excited to be back for year 2 of MAD Book Talks. I'm ready. Got my coffee mug. And I have a teetering tower, 4 stacks of books here that I hope don't topple over because they're in a specific order. So if you're watching live, hi, thanks for joining me. And if you're watching later, give us a hi and a peace sign from the future. Technology, man. I want to kick off with some books that made a difference in my life. I dusted these off the old bookshelf. You might recognize some of these titles. Maybe some head nodding going on out there. You know what I loved about this book? Map on the inside. Oh, let's find it. It's not in this version. My original version had a map of the castle. It rocked. Yep. Oh, and then we get into the upper teen years. Oh, okay. So I have to share. So Sweet Valley, my world was just rocked because I got to meet author Catherine Applegate recently. She was our Naperville Reads One Book, One Town, One Community read for Wish Tree. And when she came, she told us that years ago, she was a ghostwriter for the Sweet Valley Twins series. Francine Pascal, she was a ghostwriter for those books. And I was like, I mean, Stephen King talks about books being a uniquely portable magic, and sitting in that auditorium, hearing this revelation, like a 36-year-old woman, I was like shaking. So that's magic right there. So yeah, so those were some of the books that kind of made me who I am. They showed me a world outside of my mobile home park in Texas in the 80s. And while I didn't necessarily see myself in any of these characters, it was a way for me to see what was outside of my world. And I think books are very magical in that way. So on to the books. I'm going to try to do this fast. I've got over 30 books, and I'm going to try to do it in about 15 minutes. It breaks my heart a little bit to just talk about them in just a few words because they're all so special. But really, any amount of words won't do it justice. Nothing compares to actually diving in as a reader. And then one other side note, anytime you create a list of books, someone or something is automatically excluded. So this list is not totally inclusive of all the amazing books that I've read in the last year, but I think they're all definitely they're the ones I could grab off my shelf. So there's so many more, and I'll encourage you also to share books that have made a difference for you and your readers. So I'm going to kick it off with one of my favorite books of the last year, Planting Stories, The Life of Librarian and Storyteller Cora Beppe. She is known for being a storyteller in New York Public Libraries. And then this is just a gorgeous book about her gift of storytelling. Truth. As soon as I opened to this page, the eyes started watering, and it didn't stop until the end. The illustrations are just gorgeous. Musical. I don't know how you can make illustrations musical, but it happens. And it's just a gorgeous read. So that's Planting Stories. Up next, another powerful read, Stolen Words. It's about the lasting impact of residential schools. A little girl brings the Cree language back into her grandfather's life. And again, the illustrations, man, I have no artistic talent, but I do have a talent for crying at illustrations. So as soon as I open to this one, the words that come out of the dictionary that the little girl brings home to her grandfather turn into it's the native words, the Cree language, and it looks like the hair that was cut off of his head as a boy. Just really powerful. Oh, everybody has to have dreamers in their library, front and center. Please share it with all of your readers. Yuji Morales is just a gift to publishing right now. I wish I had her growing up. Again, tears as soon as I opened to this spread. of the first time she found the library in the United States. Oh my God, tears. And then one thing I always say, always author note. Read the author note. It's like a little tiny gift from the author to you. I always learn something new about the book. I try to read it before I start, but sometimes I forget. But then when I forget and read it at the end, I'm like, and it makes me go back and dive back into the book. I love her author's notes too, because she's also the illustrator, and she's a genius with multi faceted like collage work, digital work. It's just gorgeous. And then this author's note dives into not only how she made this book, like what materials she used, like the materials from her son's jeans that he wore when they came across the border, like but there's a letter about her story, her border, her travel story coming into the United States. So dreamers must have. Speaking of crossing borders, Welcome to Country is a gorgeous picture book. It's a traditional Aboriginal picture book from Auntie Joy Murphy, who is a senior Aboriginal elder of the Wurundjeri people. And this book tells the story, the traditional Welcome to Country greeting as newcomers cross into Wurundjeri boundaries in Australia. Again, this book is so gorgeous. It just begs to be read aloud to kids. Like, come closer, kids. Come look at this gorgeous spread. And so there's a mix of native language and English. And again, the illustrations are just like widespread and sweeping. So Welcome to Country. And then if you're looking to find a more global book that has a little bit of everything, this book, Everything and Everywhere, is so fun. So it's a pretty big book, but thin. The illustrations are amazing. My son and I had a ton of fun just kind of digging into all the details in these illustrations. Lots of visual reading here. He especially likes some of the pictures of the food. Yeah, always food. So that's Everything and Everywhere. Kind of reminds me just the way things are labeled of like Richard Scarry's Scary Town books. And so on that note, I have to share with you our next kind of, I love this book. Everybody needs this book. Vamos, Let's Go to the Market by Raoul III. Raoul III is an illustrator, and he does one of my favorite graphic novel series, The Lowriders. Check it out. It's amazing. He does everything in ballpoint pen, like red, black, and blue ballpoint pen with all these details. It's gorgeous. This is his first picture book that he wrote. And speaking of Richard Scarry's Scary Town, this is like the ultimate if you loved those books. So we're going to the market with Little Lobo, the Mercado, and you can see that everything is labeled in the Spanish. I love it. And my son and I were staring at this spread too. Like, oh, there it is. Like, look at all the detail in here. Oh, love it. You have to get Vamos, Let's Go to the Market. This Is How We Do It is another fun, like spark wonder type of book. Another big book, slim, but lots of details packed in. It says 1 day in the lives of 7 kids from around the world. So it all could spark a lot of inquiry, a lot of questions. It's just really gorgeous too, the illustrations. You go through their lives, breakfast, school, the different ways they eat meals, what they eat, what their classrooms look like. And so it's not like, definitive or anything, but it's a start. So this is how we do it. And then to grow the explorer's mindset, which we're always trying to encourage. I love this new book, The Atlas Obscura. You might subscribe to their newsletters or follow them on social media. This is an amazing book for young readers. It's the Explorer's Guide for the World's Most Adventurous Kid. 47 countries, 100 extraordinary places to visit. Amazing graphics in here. So no photos. Let's see if I can find an image. No photos, but just amazing illustrations by Joy Ang. Oh, it's gorgeous. You could just get lost in here for years, really. A great book to have on your shelf in your classroom library and your school library, your home library too. Okay, and one I'm excited to read, I actually haven't read it yet. I just picked it up from the independent bookstore in St. Louis. Go Show the World, A Celebration of Indigenous Heroes. the cover just like spoke to me, and so I had to buy it. My husband understands the compulsion, but it's just a series of Indigenous heroes compiled by Wab Kinew, a musician and former journalist, who is the leader of provincial New Democratic Party in Manitoba, Canada. So just gorgeous. I'm excited to dive into this. It was just too new for me to read it in time for this, but I had to share. Okay, and then one of our last kind of more visual reading books, because picture books are not just for young readers, they're for all, is Undocumented, A Worker's Fight by Duncan Tonatiuh. He's one of my favorite Mexican illustrators and writers. This is amazing. So it comes in this hard cover outside to protect the book, and it is an accordion book. Whoa, look at that. It is an homage to traditional Mesoamerican codices, which were written like this, right? To be unfolded, all connected that way. What a gorgeous, gorgeous piece to have. The text is amazing. It tells the story of undocumented workers who are fighting for their rights. But just the illustration, you can see too that he does throw back to the traditional codices and Mayan drawings as well, with the side image of the people too. So that's Undocumented. Lots to explore in that one. Okay, we're gonna move on to transitional books. So for our readers who are moving on to more complex texts. So Sarai Gonzalez, this is Sarai and the Meaning of Awesome by Sarai Gonzalez and Monica Brown. Sarai is a viral video star and social activist. If you YouTube her, you can see that she has a series of positive self-image videos online, and this is her in book format. So how fun for our readers to make that connection from social media to text. So this is the first in the series, so more to come, and there's a couple out there already. So this is the first one, Sarai and the Meaning of Awesome. You can see nice slim book, still illustrations. So that's a great bridge for our growing readers. All right. Do you guys know Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan? Oh, I love her. Yesterday was comic book day too. So Kamala Khan is Marvel's first Muslim character. These are the comics. But what I was super excited about is that she's also featured in the Transitional Reader, the early chapter book series, Marvel Superheroes, Mighty Marvels. So there she is, little Kamala. Oh my gosh, so cute. So fun for your readers to see that connection between popular culture and books. More transitional chapters. This is Jasmine Taguchi. She's 8 years old. I love her. Look at that awesome tutu. Make sure you have Jasmine Taguchi in your classroom library. Yasmin Ahmad. She's a Pakistani American girl, and look at her. Look at that sass, man. So this is the first in a series. So every little Yasmin book, she takes on like a different persona. So, and she's multifaceted. So just like all of us are. And so sometimes she wants to be a teacher. Sometimes she wants to be an artist. Sometimes she wants to be a map maker. And so this is a fun early reader book for our transitional readers. This is a bridge between chapter books and transitional readers, so a little more complex. There's not illustrations. Power Forward series by Henna Khan. Henna Khan, you might know her from Amina's Voice. This is the first book in the series, Power Forward, by her. Check that out. Oh, okay, Dragons in a Bag, man, this is going like hotcakes. Every time I talk to 3rd and 4th graders about what they want to read about, they say they want more fantasy books like Harry Potter. Thank you, Zetta Elliott, for doing this for us. Dragons in a Bag is the first in a series. Book 2 comes out soon. I mean, Dragons in Brooklyn, like that's a winning combination right there. So make sure that you check out Dragons in a Bag. Oh man, I wish I had this book growing up. Lamar Giles, The Last Day of Summer is a fun. So now we're getting into middle grade books. You can see it's a little bit thicker. There are some illustrations in here, some kind of fun, kooky illustrations dispersed throughout. So this is like Phantom Tollbooth meets like A Wrinkle in Time meets like the Hardy Boys. So mystery, fun. It's like super witty. I was like laughing out loud. People thought I was nuts. So it's just a good time. Make sure you pick up The Last Day of Summer. Oh, Celia Perez. I love her, fellow Chicagoan. This is the first rule of punk. And if you read this book, you're going to know the first rule of punk is that you need to make your own rules. Malu, whose real name is Maria Luisa, but she's not going by that. She's going by Malu. She likes to make zines. And so interspersed throughout this book are some of the zines that she makes. She just doesn't want to be what her mom wants her to be. I mean, do any of us? And so actually this is a Pura Belpre Award winner right here. So first rule of punk is so fun. It's about being yourself and what that can do for you. I have 5 words for you. So this is the Dactyl Hill Squad by Daniel Jose Holder. 5 words: Civil War, alternate history, dinos. You got to read it. This is the first in a series, Dactyl Hill Squad. Oh, my stack is going to fall over. We'll see if it lasts. All right, continuing on in the middle grade realm, we have Front Desk. Many of you are familiar with this. It was Global Read Aloud book by Kelly Yang. Again, always author note. I listened to this on audiobook and I was crying, like boo-hooing in the audiobook and the author's note, because Kelly Yang talks about how some of the discrimination the characters faced in the story, in this fictional story, really happened to her family, that she drew from personal experience for this book. I was like, this was one that I didn't, because it was audiobook, I couldn't peek ahead to the author's note, so I listened to it at the end, and I was like thinking back to all of the scenes of discrimination and that really happened, man. The stack fell. Tears, just tears. Ugly cry from Front Desk. Okay. Man, Arusha, I love her. So Rick Riordan, you might be familiar with his Percy Jackson series. Ever heard of it? So this is his foray into asking others to tell their own stories, their own folklore stories and mythologies. And so we've got Roshni Chakshi, who wrote the story of Arusha, who is a Pandava goddess. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. So Arusha, in the end of time, she's got to save the world before it ends. Book 2 just came out. Can't wait to dive into it. Check out the others in the series, the Rick Riordan Presents series, because there's tons of different global mythologies and folk stories that are coming out through that imprint. So check it out. Okay, we're going to try to start another pile down there. Okay, we're moving into young adult books. Okay, the end is in sight. Unfortunately, I could talk about books all day. All right, so we're definitely over the 15-minute mark, but that's all right. We're going to go to 30, probably. So young adult books. Just look at this gorgeous cover. You have to buy All the Stars Denied. This is Guadalupe Garcia Macal. This is it's a historical fiction book set in the 1930s, Texas, South Texas. And folks who have lived in that part of Texas for generations are suddenly being told that they need to repatriate back to Mexico when that's not a place they've ever known. This really happened in our history. It's called Los Desaparecidos, which means the disappeared, because overnight families are just disappearing from homes. Governments are taking them, putting them on trains to Mexico, to a place that they've never known, and without their documentation. And so it was like totally eye-opening to me. I never learned about it in my history class, but I think Guadalupe Garcia Macal for bringing this to my attention. So you've gotta read All the Stars Denied. Oh, we're going back to the other book stack. Yeah. Whew, I don't know if I'm gonna make it through this one, guys. Okay. Whew. Darius the Great is not okay. Thank you to Donna Lynn Miller for talking about this book and putting it on my radar, like all the books that she puts on my radar and all of our radars. Darius the Great is not okay. It's one of I think it's the best book that I read last year out of all the books. It's about Darius, who's an Iranian American teen boy living with depression. He never feels good enough. He doesn't feel like he lives up to his namesake, Darius the Great. And when his grandfather falls ill and they have to go back to Iran, again, those feelings don't change. Like he thought he might be able to leave that behind, leave the bullies behind, leave those feelings behind, but they come back to him in Iran. He doesn't speak Persian as well as his little sister does. He can't communicate with his family in that same way. And so just those feelings follow him there until he meets the boy next door, and the boy next door makes him feel pretty great. So this is Darius the Great is Not Okay. Even if you don't teach teens, who's a target audience for this, like, you got to read this book anyway. So that's Darius the Great is Not Okay. This book blew my mind. So if you haven't found Isabel Quintero's photographic, The Life of Graciela Iturbide, it's amazing. It's nonfiction and it's multi-genre. So you've got a little bit of Graphica with nonfiction text, with photographs that Graciela took in black and white. It's just so powerful. The images, I love the interplay between the Graphica and the photographs. I learned a lot about this photographer that I didn't know before, that I got lost down a rabbit hole of the internet, Googling her. So just look at these gorgeous photos that were chosen for this text. So Isabel Quintero, I love her work. She also has a great transitional series that you've got to check out too. So photographic, man, you got to have that in your library. Just finished this book yesterday. Decelerate Blue, speaking of Graphica, this is a gorgeous YA graphic novel. This is like all the dystopian fans. Like, if you are into 1984, Brave New World, like what's going to happen to us as we become more and more dependent on technology. This is the opening, the first pages is the teenage girl talking with her family, and every sentence now in the future ends with go. And it's all about trying to make things faster, to speed things up. This is the society we've turned into. And the main character falls into an underground where she discovers the resistance. Right? They're trying to slow everything down and go back to just a more moderate pace of life. And down there, she finds love. So this is Decelerate Blue. It's gorgeous. I don't know if it translates on the video, but the end pages are a tint light blue. It's just gorgeous. Okay, my last YA recommendation, a must read just for all humanity, please. So you might be familiar with Laurie Halse Anderson's Speak. Just hit the anniversary mark. It's been around for a while. This is the new edition with a foreword by Ashley C. Ford, Chicagoan, and an afterword by Jason Reynolds. If you don't reread Speak, I mean, you should reread Speak, but buy this version for the foreword and the afterword. Again, I was boo-hooing. I mean, it's a must read. It's a must read for all of us. And Shout, so that leads into Laurie Halse Anderson's new poetic memoir, Shout. It's the backstory to everything that led to her writing Speak. So her true history with sexual violence. And this book is for all of us. It's not for folks only for folks who have experienced sexual violence. It's for all of us. It's about consent. It's about ownership of your own body and all that means. So I actually listened to the audiobook of this. Laurie Halse Anderson reads the audio version. So these poems, these powerful words in her voice. I was with a friend on a car trip listening to this, and we were just, oh my gosh, yes. And we're very audibly responding to Shout. So please pick up Shout. Again, even if a YA reader is not in your classroom sitting in front of you, we all need to have these words on our minds and in our hearts. So that's Shout by Laurie Halse Anderson. And finally, to continue our growth as adult readers and educating ourselves, my recommendation to you is An Indigenous Peoples History of the United States. All the things that we may not have learned about in our U.S. history classes. It's amazing. So pick up a copy of this. guess what? There's a young readers version coming out soon too in the fall, so stay tuned. The young readers version of an Indigenous people's history of the United States is coming soon. So pick this up first. It's a great summer read, anytime read. And I look forward to sharing some Mad Book Talks in 2020 with you all. Thanks for joining me. Please share your recommendations. What books made a difference for you and your readers this year? Share them on the hashtag MadPD. Thanks for joining me today. Happy reading.